this is the 7th video I'm filming today, but we have a clear day, which only happens once in a century in Scotland. So here I am, filming my 7th video. Enjoy! Perfect timing for me to actually go ahead and film my January wrap-up. That's the one. So the first book that I read was, well, or listened to, I don't know. Anyway, it was an audiobook and it was Scrappy Little Nobody by Anna Kendrick. It was alright. it was quite funny. It wasn't as funny as I was expecting to. It was alright. It was entertaining for when I was walking from work and to work, which is basically when I listen to my audiobooks. I quite like her as a person. She is really hilarious on Twitter. I was just intrigued to see what she's written, and I'm just saying, if you're not a huge fan, I would not recommend the book. If I'm being completely honest, which I always am, so here you go, I wouldn't recommend this book. That's my opinion, obviously, but I didn't find it that funny and I didn't find it very interesting either. It was overall a very meh book. That was the first book that I finished in 2017 and it wasn't a great start. Next book that I finished was A Fire and Stars by Audrey Coulthurst. I'm fairly certain I did put this in a TBR because I probably already was reading it. I really did enjoy this book. I think for me the best way to describe this is if you smash a contemporary with a little bit of fantasy and put them together, this is gonna be it. This is the contemporary of a fantasy world. You know, like I mean like a YA contemporary of a fantasy world. And I didn't mind it at all. Have I been in a different mood? I maybe wouldn't have enjoyed it as much, but I was in like a perfect mood for this sort of book. So it worked for me great. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars just because, again, it was a really good timing in my life to read this book. It was really such a pleasant read. I don't know why. It was just so non-committal is probably the word that I'm looking for. It was just fun. If you're suffering from a book hangover, this could be one of the cures. So like if you're still wanting a fantasy but sort of a contemporary one. Then the next book that I read, A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. Most of you will know what this book is about, but it is about a boy who sees this monster. The monster is basically a coping mechanism for everything that is going on with it in his life. His mother has a terminal illness. He has this recurrent nightmare that is basically guilt, and without giving too much away, is how much it's affecting the kid. Just the difficulty of overcoming a tragedy at such a young age that is happening to your most important person in your life, which is your mother at that point. And whilst I did enjoy the book, and I was really expecting this one to break the course and actually make me cry. I did tear up during the trailer of the movie. I haven't seen the movie, but I've seen the trailer, and you guys know that movies and anything just basically gets me. I did tear up during that. I did not cry during the book. I think I had such a high expectation. It wasn't a bad book, but it wasn't an extraordinary one either. Anticipation and just my expectation let me down a bit, and that's why I only gave it 3 out of 5 stars. But 3 out of 5 stars is not a bad rating in my books, by the way, because I'm quite cringy with my 5 stars. I don't know, something was lacking from this book. I appreciated the simplicity of it. The viewpoint does seem like it's from a boy's perspective, and it is beautiful and it is tragic. It was just, I don't know, but it still didn't make me cry. Guys, comment down below for the book that's gonna make me cry, because I want to break that curse. I don't know, I want to cry. I do plan to read Forbidden at some point in the next month. Gonna read that, but if you have any other suggestions except from All the Bright Places, I don't know, I just don't want to read that book. I don't know why. Also, I don't want to read The Fault in Our Stars because I'm just... something about books with cancer does not appeal to me. I understand it is very common, but I sort of hate how stereotypical that is, you know? If it's sad then it has to be cancer. Like, no, there's a lot of other plenty things that can be sad. Whatever. Not the point of the video. Now the next book is Everything by Nicola Yoon. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. Again, I also think I picked this up in a perfect mood for myself to read a contemporary. It was more than I expected in the sense that it wasn't cheesy. I know a lot of people don't like it because obviously this is a girl with a condition that is very serious. Severe combined immunodeficiency, and which is basically, as we know, is the boy in a bubble sort of condition. And so she's allergic to everything and anything can kill her, so she has to stay in a very sterile environment at her home, and obviously very limited human contact. And her mother is a doctor who's like overlooking her treatments and just keeping her safe. I know the main criticism for the book is how it didn't really represent the struggles of having such a life. There is a strong correlation between these sort of conditions and severe depression, and I get that, but I also don't want to disadvantage the rating of the book because of that, because I actually enjoyed it. This book did not make it look very difficult for the girl to have that life, but I'm just saying that not every person is gonna be depressed. I'm just saying, okay? Not everybody has to have like horrible experience. And also I want to mention that we don't know if she hasn't had that already. Maybe she's overcome, and maybe this is just her viewpoint now, that she's just trying her best to be happy about it. I'm just saying that the lack of problems and difficulties and all the difficulties that actually come with the condition are not a rule, and it doesn't have to always happen. I really enjoyed reading about it, and I know it might not be accurate, but guess what? This is a fiction novel, so it doesn't have to be accurate. But I understand that if people were looking for that sort of representation in a book, they would be disappointed with this, because it wasn't much about it. What I thought about this book was like Gilmore Girls, like Rory, because she's very calm in her ways, and she's very rational, and the relationship with her mother and her, at least at the beginning of the book, really made me think of Gilmore Girls, because they're witty and they're funny and they're very supportive, and their relationship is just beautiful. And obviously we have this huge plot twist at the very end that I'm obviously not gonna mention because it's the biggest spoiler ever, but all in all, I freaking loved it, and it wasn't too soppy, and it wasn't too cheesy or romantic. Actually, it was just a great book. I don't know, I really enjoyed it, and I really don't like it when people say that it had to be something different, because you know what, it doesn't always have to be what you're expecting. 5 out of 5. The last book that I finished in the month of January was The Book Thief by David Suzak, something like that. Wait, Marcus Zuzak? I don't Anyway. And The Book Thief is a historical fiction novel about a girl who has been basically given away to her foster parents in Germany. She really finds a new sort of relationship with her stepfather, and the stepmother is a really interesting character, as in like you love and hate her. It's set during the time of the World War II, but what is interesting about this novel is that it is also set from a German family perspective, and it was really interesting to see the perspective of especially a kid and a family. Obviously her foster parents were not particularly keen on the Hitler agenda, but they also had to survive and, you know, blend in to survive. They basically end up fostering and hiding a Jew in their basement, and it's a very heart-wrenching story about friendship and parenthood, the war and human values. And I think the best part for this book was the narrator. The narrator in this book was legitimately my favorite one ever so far, at least. And the narrator is Death, but Death is so humane. Death is made to sound like it has more emotions and just is more merciful than humans. It's almost like Death is depressed by the cruelty that humans can show. It was a wonderful book. Highly recommend to anyone who's interested in historical fiction, or even just for people who like good writing, because this book was really well written and I absolutely adored it, and it was 5 out of 5 again. I will move on to the TBR, but I think I'll make it as a separate video because holy crap, this took longer than I expected. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, give it a thumbs up, and I will see you very soon. Bye! I can finally go ahead and do that, but I also had a problem of this happening. See a jar, see a hardcover book, doesn't freaking fit in a jar.